directly measuring emissions from latrines and septic tanks to develop emission factors, which can be used to more accurately calculate greenhouse gas emissions from the sector. And again, in sanitation, the lack of data is a big problem. So this will go a long way in addressing this. And then finally, in Côte d'Ivoire, we're also working very closely with the governments to develop a roadmap for an MRV system, so monitoring, reporting, and verification system in Côte d'Ivoire. And now to like more on-the-ground interventions. We also develop infrastructure development. We don't always do it. It depends on the interest of the government and the interest of our donors and partners. But we have been very active there in Rwanda, which I won't go into details because my colleague will talk more later on. And also in Senegal, where, for example, we upgraded fecal sludge treatment plants and also an e-waste dismantling plant, including for the FSTP adding solar panels on the roof to really reduce the electricity cost. And also plastic, the pilot plastic processing facility. Of course, we don't just build that infrastructure. We work a lot on the business modeling, at least to cover the operation and maintenance cost. So there's no point in just building a plant and walking away. It goes wrong quite often. So it's very important to work and have a follow-up periods with the government and private partners to really establish the role and responsibilities and also get the business model going so that there is some income that can cover the O&M and more if possible. And finally, we're also working on investment mobilization. So it's a lot of work that we do. So we conduct feasibility studies, business models, and investment memorandums. So for example, we are working with the agri-foods industry in Senegal, identifying some very valuable waste streams, organic waste streams, and effluents that release methane, and are conducting studies to see how we can capture these precious resources and have an investment going so that the industry can benefit from it. We also developed detailed feasibility studies and engineering designs for a material recovery facility and a fecal sludge treatment plant in Uganda. And we're now working with the government to identify investors for this plan. So these are only two examples of investment mobilizations we do. So we don't do the studies, we also work closely with the relevant partners to implement the project. So identify the finances, the mechanisms for investments, and then make it a reality. And finally, my last slide before I hand over to my colleague. So some overarching interventions that we do. So we work a lot on value chain development. So source separation of waste is very important. So organics, separated plastics, separated cardboard, for example. So we do a lot of, we do trials at community scale and awareness raising and capacity building for these types of interventions. We organize study tours as well. We develop guidelines, and then we also conduct trials. So it could either be an upstream trial, as I said, whereby we're working with the community on source separation, or it could be a downstream trial, like the photo on the right, the two photos on the right, in Senegal, where they are trialing the reuse, the recycling of fecal sludge into salamanders. It's mostly pyrolysis to create biochar, which can be used either as a salamander or as a source of a fuel that burns in a cleaner manner than regular wood. So as I said, it's a very high level overview of what we do. And now we are going to delve more into the details on a specific project. So I will hand over the microphone to my colleague Juvenal to discuss the results of our project in our waste to resource project in Rwanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerome. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juvenal. As Jerome mentioned, Mukurarinda, I'm a senior officer, Sustainable Waste Management from GGG Rwanda Country Office. I'm going to detail a bit on the results of the project, namely Waste Resource Project, a project which was launched way back in 2021 in collaboration between Government of Rwanda, and the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg through the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Biodiversity. As you could see, the project is led by the Ministry of Environment in Rwanda, and it was implemented by GGGI for a length of 3 years, from July 2021 to July 2024. And we've added an additional time for us to ensure the smooth handover of the project. As Jerome mentioned, we are not only implementing, but rather ensuring that the sustainability of our project is due to the government. So the project itself had 3 outcomes. Outcome 1 was really to look at reducing waste at the disposal site in Kigali by introducing a valorization infrastructure. The second output was really onto the valorization of e-waste, as highlighted by my colleague, to see how we could really potentially reduce e-waste as a waste, but also valorize them. And the third component was looking at policy work and capacity building and strengthening the capacity building for our stakeholders from different aspects, private and also government. Next, please. So then in terms of results, as part of the outcome 1 or outcome A, which was looking at interventions in the city of Kigali, as part of the project, we've been able to really look at infrastructure components. I didn't maybe highlight this, but in Rwanda is a bit advanced when it comes to waste management, but again, when it comes to infrastructure to valorize all these generated waste is really so small. So we opted to go by piloting various infrastructure so that we can really maximize the valorization of the so-called waste and then maybe turn them into valuable materials. So here in Rwanda, specifically in Kigali, we've been able to secure a land at one of the locations where we are disposing our waste, and then introduced various infrastructure. Among the infrastructure we've established include a sorting and separation facility. This is a huge facility that will be able to help us to sort and separate recyclables up to 100 tons a day. And then a second one was really the weighbridge on the data issue. And data has also been an issue in Rwanda. So we've been able to put a weighbridge, a facility here so that we could be able to monitor the quantities of waste that we are taking to our disposal site, but also to understand the quantification of the waste that you are valorizing at the same location. The third infrastructure you also piloted include the biowaste facility. So this is a composting facility that is helping us to understand at what level we could really produce the compost from the organic waste that you are generating in the city of Kigali. And this one has really shown us that always we cannot call waste as waste, but also there is a resource in it. On the top down right side, that's where we could see the windrow being formed, and just can confirm that composting facility had used a windrow composting system as a way to valorize our organic waste generated here in the city of Kigali. Next, please. And still on the infrastructure as part of the e-waste, we understood that here in Rwanda, again, data issue is something that we need to address as one of the challenges. So with the e-waste, again, we realized that there is no ways of, tracking our data when it comes to e-waste. So in collaboration with Enviroserve, who is going to be part of this discussion, we've put together an inventory tracking system. And this tracking system is helping us to monitor e-waste collection from various sources until their refurbishment and also dismantling to the treatment plants that we have here in Rwanda. And then secondly, after the inventory tracking system, we've been also able to introduce some of the infrastructure that would also complement the existing facility that we have dealing with the e-waste. And among the infrastructure we put together, one is reverse vending machine. So these are the really sort of collection points that we put in busy commercial areas to really make sure that we collect and we get a collection point where we could really put all the plastic, glasses, cans, and also we've also added an element of e-waste And with these RVMs, we are being able also to introduce incentives to people who are bringing in all these, I would say, recyclables. And then these recyclables are being collected and transferred to a dedicated recycling facilities. The second e-waste infrastructure that we've introduced is a reclaimant refrigerant reclaimant system. This one is really also important. It's a really innovative, I would say, technology that has been introduced here in Rwanda that is recycling all the hydrofluorocarbons generated from the cooling appliances, including the refrigerators. So the gas that is being recycled, it's being taken back to the refrigerators and then being reused again instead of escaping into the atmosphere to cause air pollution. Next, please. The fourth or the outcome 3 or outcome C, so this is on the policy work. So as part of the project, we've been really able to come up with various studies, policies, and reviews as part of the project. And among the studies and reviews we've come up with includes the gender aspect, trying to understand the gender mainstreaming in the waste management sector, but also to understand what could be done next should we continue to work on this aspect. But the second one, also before we introduce our infrastructure, we came up with various studies to see the situation on ground. Among the studies included, of course, the e-waste study that we conducted in the city of Kigali as well as secondary cities, but also the situation on ground when it comes to waste management disposal. So where we've done waste characterization study as well as the market assessment for all these waste that we were dealing with. And then after those studies, we've been able to introduce the infrastructure like I mentioned previously. But beyond the situational analysis studies, we also came up with a pre-feasibility study that also helped us to understand an element. Sorry, a host has told me to start the video again. Just to highlight on investment again. So like my colleagues mentioned, there is really investment opportunities when it comes to waste. So we've also been able to come up with the feasibility studies that would really help us to implement the large scale investment opportunities. But beyond that, also had some time even to review the policies and strategies and guided the counterparts accordingly. In terms of capacity building, as part of the project, we've been also able to come up with various, I would say, training and capacity building programs where we've really introduced trainings to public and private sector on different aspects of waste management, just to ensure that the sustainability of waste is really, really implemented here in Rwanda. Just to highlight that over up to 400 participants or stakeholders who have been part of the capacity program that has been achieved as part of the project. And then if you could see on the bottom right picture, so that's a knowledge exchange or peer-to-peer knowledge study visit we've had beyond Rwanda. We've been able to take the government counterparts as well as private sector to go to see abroad what is happening in terms of waste management and to understand what could be feasible in a Rwandan context. So just to highlight that these were really some of the highlights when it comes to capacity building. And then the government of Rwanda was really present to see what is happening beyond Rwanda and what can actually be done in Rwandan context. Next, please. In terms of awareness, of course, you cannot do any project on ground when it comes to waste management without any awareness. So we understand sorting at source is really, really a prerequisite for us to even think about valorization of our waste. So we've had numerous, I would say, awareness campaigns via different platforms, physical meetings with community, having social network campaigns, but also engaging various key respective and stakeholders to ensure that we really communicate waste management at source or at the generation point to ensure that communities really understand what is at stake when it comes to waste management before any collection and transportation of these generated waste. So we've been able to really even go ahead by introducing some of the pilots to communities to ensure that the waste is managed properly by introducing the waste bags. So 2 bag systems in Rwanda, one for the organic, another for inorganic waste. All these were really piloted, try even to communicate with the communities on what needs to be done, but also at one point to know practically what goes into the blue bag if it's recyclable and what goes into the green sack if it's an organic waste. Next, please. So in terms of impact as part of the project implementation, so we had 3 high-level targets as part of the project. As you've heard from my colleagues, the waste management, if it's not really properly managed, it has really issues when it comes to air pollution and the public health issues. So as part of the project, we are seeing that the project is going to be able to minimize the greenhouse gases emissions up to 180,000 CO2 equivalent over 10 years. Should also we ensure that our infrastructure are fully operational. And then again, in terms of investment, as part of the high-level targets for the project, we are discussing with the government to ensure that the pre-feasibility study we've worked on of implementing mechanical biological treatment here in Rwanda, especially city of Kigali, that is seen as a large-scale and sustainable solution for us to ensure that we maximize waste treatment at one of the disposal sites in Kigali. So we are really looking and discussing with the government to see how this can be integrated with other ongoing projects. But also in terms of social component when it comes to this project, we are seeing that economically as well, we are being able to introduce green jobs up to more than 50 jobs, which were the target of the project. And also beyond this, in terms of improving the services, beyond 250,000 people will have access to improved municipal solid waste and e-waste management services. Next, please. Yes, there is, when it comes to project, there is the highs and ups, so the hiccups and also the success also goes with the project implementation. Just to highlight here that in terms of challenges, the project had really came up with various challenges, given the fact that it was really launched during the COVID pandemic era and then followed up with the Ukraine war. So all these has really also affected our project implementation, but just to re-echo on the challenges and lesson learned when it comes to project design. So given the fact as well as that data was an issue in Rwanda, the project design really came up with high ambitious targets. And then our really key learning lesson here is really to work with government counterparts, do co-creation together and ensure that we maximize to get all the information, ensuring that we capture properly all the data and the interventions accordingly. But again, when it comes to procurement issues, we also got procurement issues as part of the project. Our really lesson learned is really to engage potential vendors well ahead of time so that we could really engage them during the implementation without any retendering on any additional issues when it comes to procurement. Shipping, as I mentioned, during the COVID and the Ukraine war, we had issues, particularly for RVMs, reverse vending machines, and also gas reclaimment system, where we had really to wait more time than it was really expected. And this has really affected our operations on ground. So in terms of land, this is also really problematic when it comes to land. So this is something that we also have realized that it's an issue when you cannot be able to secure it before the project's implementation or build during the initiation of the project. So this is an area that we are requesting to secure land well ahead of time so that we could avoid delays into the approval of the sites. In terms of investment mobilization, so the project has really targeted itself to get, the investment up to the ends of the project timelines. But again, as you probably know, the investment is something that goes even beyond the project implementation timelines. So this is also something that we want as well to be advancing well during the project implementation, come up with the various investment memos, so that we can be able to secure the investment within the timeline of the project. So these are the key, I would say, results, impact, as well as lesson learned we've got from the project implementation. And I believe this is helpful for everyone. Before we go to another part of the session, thank you. Again, so as part of the project, and Rwanda is a country that has really put forward the involvement of private sector here in the country. And also as part of the project, we've been also extensively engaging our local partners, the private sector, to ensure that all the established infrastructure are really sustained, not idle, as we probably hear from other countries. So in Rwanda, really, we are keen to see this happening. And one way to make this happening is to really introduce the private sector, of which the government of Rwanda is also supporting. Now, as part of the project, we engaged 3 local firms. One is Depo Kalisimbi, another one is Inverserve, and the third one is Green Care Rwanda Limited. Colleagues, Pascal, Olivier, as well as Noel, please unmute and then introduce yourself, your firm, what they do, starting from Pascal to Olivier and Noel. Thank you. Pascal? So in the meantime, if Pascal, you're having difficulties to introduce yourself and what your company does, Olivier, can you please go ahead?
Yes, thank you so much, Juvenal. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olivier Mbera. I'm the Managing Director of Envirosave Rwanda. Envirosave Rwanda is a company that specializes in the recycling of electronic waste and plastic waste. We are based in Rwanda, but also have other facilities in different countries of Africa and Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivier. Noel?
Thank you very much, Juvenal. My name is Noel Nizeyimana. I'm CEO of Green Care Rwanda Limited. Green Care Rwanda Limited, it's a private company engaging for the bio-waste treatment by converting into the organic fertilizer by using the farmer for solving the problem of waste management and also boosting the agriculture productivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel, for the good introduction. Pascal, can you hear us? And maybe can you unmute yourself to introduce yourself and Depo Kalisimbi? It seems that Pascal is having difficulties to unmute himself while we're looking at possibilities to solve the issue. So we could go ahead and ask questions. And simply maybe to highlight that these 3 companies were really, like I mentioned, part of the project in terms of operating all the infrastructure that we've established. I can see Pascal joining. Pascal, can you hear us okay? We can't hear you, Pascal. Can you maybe increase your volume?
Do you get me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you please go ahead and introduce yourself and the Kalisimbi?
So my name is Pascal Gatete. I'm the Managing Director for Depo Kalisimbi. Depo Kalisimbi, it's a local company here in Rwanda, focusing in hazardous waste management, focusing in recycling and landfill management. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe to start with you, Pascal. So, you've been part of the, operation and maintenance of our sorting and separation facility, and you've been seeing that the facility is underperforming due to issues of the upstream waste that is coming to our facility. I just wanted to ask from your perspective, how can your business collaborate with formal and informal waste collectors and recyclers to enhance the efficiency of the supply chain for the sorting, collection, and processing of plastic and other recyclables?
Thank you, Juvenal, for that question. First of all, I would like to thank GGI for giving us this opportunity to join this session. And second is about the partnership and collaboration we had through this project of sorting and separation facility. It has been a good journey together. And as I respond to your question directly, is what the POCARI Simbi is focusing is how to formalize a partnership with informal waste collectors by putting a system whereby we put clear incentive for those informal and formal waste collectors. Second, by working also with companies which do household collection, by focusing on, because currently the way it's done is most of the waste are combined. So we are working with City of Kigali and the organization and WASAC to see how we can put a system in place whereby waste collected at the household level can be sorted already at the house, so that it can be even easier for collection of recyclables to be able to use the sorting and separation facility. The other things which is important is to creating collection hubs within the city of Kigali. So by creating hubs, it allows even people at the household level to bring the recyclables, and also improve the transportation system within the city, so that we can maximize the use of the sorting and separation facility. The other point is community awareness, where we need to work with local authorities and the government to increase local by using different channels like Muganda, which is community initiative or local communities works, which happens at the end of the month, and also using social media and also radio spots to increase community awareness in terms of sorting, in terms of benefit of separating waste, and also collection of recyclables. I think those are key points. And also the last one, which I'll end up, is about data. Putting a system, an application in place whereby we collect different data, and also that application which help households to know how many quantities they are bringing, and also to help tracking the system from the beneficiary, from the household or the hub up to the recycling point, so that everyone knows from the source to the end what the recyclables have been used, what's the end product which came out of it. So those are the key points we are working on to make sure that we increase the recycling system in Rwanda. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pascal, for that one. Indeed, incentive introduction, data capture, and as well as engaging government and local authorities is one of the strategies that we could put together to ensure that we maximize the e-waste or the recyclables at the facility. Thank you for that. I'll pass on to my colleague Jerome to ask a follow-up question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juvenal. And I would like to remind the audience, if you have any questions for ourselves or for the panelists, please write the question in the chat, in the Q&A chat. Thank you. So I will ask a question to Olivier from EnviroServe. So Olivier, we collaborated on developing an e-waste inventory tracking system to improve service levels for generation to collection, transportation, and treatment of e-waste. So in your opinion, how does limited access to technology and innovation in recycling affect small and medium-sized enterprises in the private sector?
Thank you so much, Jerome, and thank you so for giving us this this opportunity. Having proper technology and innovation systems, it's actually help to increase the collection rates, and then and this will lead to increased profitability. In the business of waste management, it's also about the quantities you collect, and also the recovery rates, what you're able to recover and sell. So with the tracking system, we are able to know our containers are located, and are they full or not full, plan efficiently the collection, and this really give you more access to or efficient collection system, and more access to different type of waste. So this is really very important for small and medium enterprises, and sometimes SMEs are not able to do it by themselves, and but from the support and from learning from previous experiences, these are very important tools for the profitability of the business.
Okay, thank you very much, Olivier. So it really links to what Pascal was saying about the need for data. So it doesn't seem important, but it's really critical in terms of making informed business decision, and also making sure you reach out to the broader population, so that they're aware of the options that they have in terms of valorizing their e-waste. Thank you very much, Olivier. I will pass over to Juvenal for the next question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jerome. So on to the GainCare, and Noel. So you know the work we've been collaborating on when it comes to biowaste facility, and you've really started from the scratch, from the design, implementation, but also operations before you transfer it to us. So just given your extensive experiences when it comes to organic waste management, how and what markets exist in creating, sustaining demand for compost products, and how can the private sector collaborate with policymakers to build stronger markets for organic waste-derived products?
So thank you, Juvenal. This is the critical question, because composting is the way for sustainable solution for waste management and boosting also the agricultural productivities. So the market is the heart of the business model to be successful in waste management, because if you produce what does not consume, the business will not be sustainable. So as well as in the waste management, especially for the compost process, so there is the key challenges. So one, it's the lack of awareness and education, because the biowaste and composting system link environmental aspect and agriculture. So there is a need of awareness and education for different stakeholders, which has interest at all value chain. The second one was the quality control of the product. So as well as the biowaste is coming from different source, different area, with different collectors, so there is a need of harmonization to ensure that the waste collected is very consistent in terms of the quality, as well as the waste is coming in different source that can affect the nutrient balance and also making it hard for the farmers to trust the product. The last one is the cost of production. So the business model for the bio-waste treatment is based on when the sorting is take place at the source, as well as the waste is received without sorting at the source. It's increasing the cost of production. So the result shows that the 30% of the cost can be increased if the sorting cannot take at the source. So that is leading to the farmers cannot access the capacity to buy that compost. That is the main challenge, but the solution also can be found in a collaboration between the private sector and also the public sector. So there is, number one, there is a need of awareness and collaboration with the agriculture institution to ensure that the community or farmers is aware about the municipal compost, because they know the manure compost, the goat manure, but for the municipal compost, there is a need of awareness. Number two, for the policymakers, they have to know to collaborate with the private sector in order to ensure that the standard developed will meet with the context where the facility is. Because the standard is starting from where the raw material is coming from, where the site is, how the process, how the people involved in producing the product, and also the quality of the products. All those supply chain, there is some specificity and need to ensure that the quality will meet the standard, which can help the user not to meet as regular, which can help the user to meet the standard, also to solve the problem of soil fertility and also the productivities. So by conclusion, the private sector and government need to work closely to overcome those challenges and can create the strong market opportunity for organic compost and also support the sustainability of environment and also boosting agricultural productivities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noel, for that. And I believe, of course, as you rightly mentioned, so without sorting at source, the operational side of things will really increase in terms of the budget required for it. And again, of course, there is a need of collaboration between the government as well as the private sector to ensure that the regulations, the standards are put together, given the day-to-day experience that you get from the operations and the production of the compost. Thank you for that. So then I'll pass over to Jerome to ask the following question. Thank you.
Thank you, Juvenal. So we're already running a bit out of time, so we'll ask one more question to each panelist. And I will also briefly answer a question that was put in the chat that came from Uganda in terms of source separation. So when we talk about segregation, we talk principally about source separation. So for example, sorting the waste at the household level, that's the most efficient way of doing it because the waste does not get cross-contaminated. So you save on cost. There is also options to separate it downstream before it gets to the landfill, like the mechanical biological treatment facility we are working on in Rwanda, where it can also be done in an industrial setting. Of course, what you're saying is that we have to be careful that it's not always very safe to have people informal sector sorting waste directly at the landfill because it's not safe. At the same time, it's important to find solutions so that they are not left behind, because a lot of people make money by sorting waste informally. So it's very important to include them into the solutions. So we'll ask a question to Pascal quickly. It's a short, it's a simple question, but not that easy to answer. So what role should the government play in promoting proper waste sorting and increase the availability of quality recyclables for your business?
Thank you, Jerome, for that question. I think the government has a key role in this sector. And also, one of the key roles, first of all, I'll start with public education and awareness campaigns, because people need to be aware, people need to be educated, and it starts from home. So once the government invests more in the education of the community, that's the major one which will help in terms of the recycling sector. The second one is putting in place incentive in recycling companies by saying that there is a lot government can do to attract more companies and also to attract more to be done and also attract more investment by putting incentive to those companies who are willing to invest their money, their resources into the recycling sector. The third one is investment in infrastructures, because the role of the government is putting in place different platforms, including infrastructures. The next one is innovation, how the government to support innovation in recycling technologies. So this is very important as we are in the era of technology. So the government need to support different companies, startup working into how to recycle waste and how to make it beneficial and impactful to the community and also to the country. The other one is enforcement. It's very important to, once the education has been done, once everyone is aware, once every measures has been put in place. So enforcement of the waste sorting laws is very important to even to promote the recycling sector in Rwanda. The last one, which I will finish with, is making sure by extended producer responsibility, because this is very important so that the end life of whoever was manufacturing the products can have the roles which has to play, and the government has to put. I think the good things is the government put in place that extended producer responsibility. I think they started so that this can be even more, and to help the resources coming on that to support the sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comprehensive answer. So public education, incentives for recycling, support innovations, enforcement of the law, and EPR are your key messages. In particular, it's very interesting to hear about the enforcement of the law. It might not be popular, but it's very hard to get to have a very efficient and vibrant recycling system without an enforcement system. So, and it is something that is often lacking in many African countries. Thank you. I will hand over to Juvenal for the next question. So we have 2 questions to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerome, and thank you for responses of our colleagues. So to Enviroserve, Enviroserve has been, very important local company in Rwanda dealing with the e-waste. To you, Olivier, of course, what are the challenges associated with investing in e-waste management facilities, especially in Rwanda, and maybe with your broad experience on African continent? And how does Enviroserve really ensure the profitability in this sector? And what is really needed to scale up these and replicate these initiatives? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Juvenal. This is an important question. For the challenges, there are so many challenges, but I will highlight a few of them. There are challenges related to the high capex when investing in the proper facilities for recycling of electronic waste. So you need to have good facilities and good equipment, and this require large investment. That's one of the question of the challenge. The second challenge is related to the legal and regulatory framework in different countries. My colleague touched about the enforcement. You may have in some countries there are good laws and policies, but also lacking enforcement of those policies and regulation. But in other countries, you don't find this legal framework which facilitates the proper investment and proper recycling in the e-waste. Then specifically for e-waste, there is challenge related to the complexity of e-waste. We have variety of materials, over 650 types, and so you and there are a lot of hazardous substances into those materials. So you need to have the qualified labor, qualified proper equipment, and so on. So this is also one of the challenge. There is also some challenge related to the competition with the informal recycling sector, where they provide cheaper recycling services and they don't care about hazardous treatment of hazardous materials, and this will hinder the formal investment. And finally, the access to materials, to electronic waste. Materials may be there, but if there is no awareness and proper channels to get these materials to the recycling facility, so that becomes a big challenge. So as I said, there are so many, but let me stop on those 4 big challenges we are seeing right now. And for a company like ours, how do we ensure profitability? Of course, we put a lot of efforts into increasing the collection rates and recycling rates, but also we try to diversify our services. We through adding related activities like repair and refurbishment, like data erasure. We, with the support of DGI, we recently added the reclaim and the reclaim of refrigerant gas, and so trying to add more services that also people can pay. It helps improve or it helps the company to get profitability level. We also do a lot of partnership with public, with NGOs, with even other private companies, and this is also a source of income to our company. And we also ensure that we have different revenue streams, especially for the recyclables and processed fractions.
Thank you. Thank you again. I just wanted to say that we are beyond our timeline. So just to highlight that Greencare, of course, you've mentioned on the next question, the collaboration that needs to be done with the governments and also to ensure that we produce efficient and high production of the compost. So I'll pass over to Jerome to introduce our next speaker who is going to close the session. Thank you once again, colleagues, for your insights provided for this panel. Thank you.
Maybe if we have a few more minutes, Noel, I will ask you one final question. If you can answer in one minute, please, so we can then have time for closing, so that every speaker has 2 questions. So again, a government question: how can the government facilitate collaboration between municipalities and private composting businesses to create a more efficient and integrated composting system for organic municipal solid waste? So if you can give a rapid answer on that, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Jerome. So the answer is this. The collaboration between the government and the private sector is essential for creating essential waste management system that benefit both environment and circular economy. So what is very important, each part has his own role and responsibility to ensure that that collaboration should be beneficial. So for the government, there is a need to develop the policies which can ensure that policies can fit with what is going on the ground. The second is to engage the community, which can involve in all value chain from waste generation, the user of the compost, to ensure that they have the knowledge and capacity to do that. So for the private sector, so we have to focus on the production, marketing and sales, and also to give the feedback to the government where there is a challenge to ensure that the progress and the feedback will be continually improved, as well as this sector is still young, as well as we are developing to ensure that the sector will be beneficial at all value chain. So by conclusion, so the composting system is it's a complex. It has the different stakeholders, private and public. So the great collaboration is needed, not based on the paper, based on the ground to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noel, and thank you to all our panelists. So now we're out of time. We will hand over to our GGGI country representative for Rwanda, Mrs. Caroline Reyes. Thank you. Caroline, over to you.
Thank you, Jérôme, and let me add my voice of thanks to all our fantastic speakers as well as the participants who joined us today. It's been really a rich discussion. I'm sure many of the listeners will walk away with so many fantastic insights that they can apply to their work. So I wanted to first start with some reflections on the Rwanda project, which was discussed extensively. As one of the first countries to effectively ban single-use plastic bags, Rwanda is really a shiny example of how strong government leadership and enforcement coupled with partnership with private sector can lead to results. And this issue of partnerships and collaboration has come out so many times in this discussion. So I really wanted to emphasize that. From our side at GGGI, we are extremely grateful to the partnership with all the private players that are on this panel today, not just for making time to speak on this important topic here, but also for just going above and beyond and making sure that this project is successfully completed. And as we're now handing over many of the infrastructure that you've been implementing over the last few months, we're also seeing you stepping up and committing resources to ensure the sustainability of these facilities. So I think that's really commendable. It shows your leadership. But it's also a very strong signal that there is a clear opportunity here, right? When we're looking at valorization of different waste streams, whether it's organic, e-waste, or plastics. It's not just a good environmental policy. It's also, there's a very strong economic business case to be made. So I think that's very clear, and the business models are there. But also many of you have highlighted the multiple challenges that still are blocking us, preventing us from making transformational change in the waste sector, whether it's behavioral change issues, regulatory barriers, data. Everyone mentioned the issue of data. Coordination challenges. I really liked what Noel said. They're not coordination on paper, but really coordination on the ground. So how can we build on the foundation that we have set today to redouble our efforts and make sure that we are tackling all these outstanding barriers? That's something I would like us to ponder on as we leave this session. So now zooming out maybe to the regional context, the various circular economy initiatives that were presented earlier by my colleague Jérôme offer an important lesson of the power of testing out new and bold ideas and the power of piloting them. I'm a strong believer that many cities and countries that have been able to have impact and move the needle on a particular issue have been doing that by applying the following strategy. Think big, start small, and scale fast. So listening to you all today, it's very clear that we now need to move from pilot to action at scale. And we need to move very, very fast. So again, this is another call to action for us to build momentum so that we can scale up what has worked and the successes that we have collectively delivered. Before I close, I just want to challenge all of us to also look at what we can do more. What else can we challenge ourselves? What are the untapped opportunities or the hard to address barriers that are still preventing us from making transformation in our waste systems? I want to emphasize that as much as waste diversion through valorization is critical, we also need to do a lot more to reduce and avoid waste in the first place. I really want to highlight Jerome's figure. 10 million tons of plastic making their way into our environment, and particularly our waterways and our oceans. This is astronomical. We will not recycle our way out of this plastic crisis. We know that. So we need to massively reduce plastic production and waste generation to begin with. This is absolutely critical. And I think looking at the road to Busan and Rwanda's very active role in the ongoing discussions around a legally binding plastic treaty, I think we need to use that platform to lobby for more bold action, and GGGI is ready to support in that direction. So with that, I'd like to say thank you again for your time and participation.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for these very powerful words. Have a good day, everyone. And hope if you have any questions, please get in touch with us directly.
Thank you.
And thank you very much again to our speakers.
Thank you.